everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. I am so excited that I finally get to start on another new project. If you've been following along with these videos weekly, you'll know my last project took way too long, and now it is kind of crunch time to prepare for Emerald City Comicon in March. So I am starting a brand new cosplay today, and that cosplay is Kirsten's meat dress. There's actually a whole group of us that are doing American Girl cosplays for Comic-Con, and I am so freaking excited. If you happen to be going to Emerald City Comic-Con and you want to join our group on Friday, send me a DM over on Instagram at Lady Rebecca Fashions, and you are more than welcome to join our group. So in any case, I am doing Meet Kirsten, so classic, so iconic, and I've been talking about this project for a while. So you may or may not know that I have been looking for this fabric for a while, and although there is a really pretty good dupe of the fabric that someone has created to put on Spoonflower, which I will link down below in the description if you are interested in that, I've actually opted to not go the Spoonflower route. I do have the Spoonflower swatch, or like fat quarter, I think, that I got right here. You can see that, but to me there was just something about the colors that wasn't quite right, and if I'm gonna shell out that much money for, you know, custom printed fabric, I want the colors to be a little bit better. So just for comparison's sake, I've got one of Kirsten's dresses right here, and you can notice that it's a much more muted color than the blue in this swatch. So I decided to go the budget route, and I will have a little bit of tweaking to do to this fabric, but I actually found this fabric right here at Joann's. So this is just one of their, like, you know, floral quilt cottons, and obviously the pattern is not identical, you know, that's okay. I think it was also $4 a yard or something like that, as opposed to what, like $20 a yard plus shipping of this one. So we're doing budget Kirsten here, and although it is not quite right, as in not quite blue enough, I actually did do a test swatch quite some time ago with just a little bit of blue fabric dye. So just to compare there, you can see that it is a bit more blue on the swatch, but not blue enough for the actual Kirsten dress. So the first thing that I am going to be doing with this project is I'm going to be doing some dyeing, and I am going to attempt to get the Joann's fabric even bluer, but not this blue, so that I can hopefully match this blue, because I feel like that blue is really pretty iconic. Now there are actually a couple of different Kirsten dresses. They changed the print of her dress. This is the original right here. So this is the one from the 1980s, and I used to have one of the newer ones, and then looking for it now I realized I sold it, so I can't show you the newer one, but it is a slightly different pattern, and I think the blue is just slightly different as well, but we're going for something close. We're going for as close as I can get. I also got red and white ticking, which I would show you, except it's actually in the laundry right now, but that's going to be for her apron. And I'm actually going to be running over to Joann's today to get the fabrics to make her little pocket. So I am going to be putting together and embroidering this pocket as part of it too. And I'm also going to be picking up the fabric for her bonnet, which is this red gingham right here. Of course, I don't have Kirsten dressed up in this right now because both of my Kirstens are wearing all of their winter stuff, so you'll just have to do with all of the individual pieces. But I'm very excited to dive into this, and I'm probably going to be working on a lot of these pieces concurrently, because I'm actually probably going to be working on this project at the same time as the other cosplay that I'm doing for Emerald City, which you will find out about very soon if you don't know from the past videos where I've talked about it. Anyway, let's go ahead and start dyeing. So my dyeing glove was a little bit shorter than I had anticipated, and I reached too far into the water and the water got in my glove and I didn't realize, and now my hand is blue. Anyway, the fabric is currently in the washer. Hopefully it will come out the right color. But so this was the swatch that I had done before, which was the closest one to this color. And then this is the undyed one right here. This is the swatch that I did today before I put the rest of the fabric in. And I'm a little bit worried because the fabric seemed like once I put it in, it was taking up dye much faster than this swatch. This honestly took like, I don't know, 15 minutes, if not more, in the dye bath. I think it might have been close to 20, and it's still not quite as pigmented as I wanted it to be. I mean, you can see right there. So I'm a little bit worried because it seemed like it was soaking up the dye so fast. So I guess we'll see in a moment once it comes out what it looks like. While we're waiting though, let's talk about some other fabrics. So this is the fabric that I had gotten for the apron. It was pretty much the closest thing that I could find to this. It's obviously a wider stripe, though I mean this scaled up would be a wider stripe, and it's also a little bit more rust red, but I don't think that's awful. It's actually just ticking from Joann's. So that's going to be the apron. And then this was unfortunately the closest thing that I could find at Joann's to the bonnet fabric, which the bonnet is just gingham. They didn't have red gingham at Joann's. So this is like a checked print. It was just from the quilting cotton section. It's a little bit stiff, honestly, too, considering how soft this is. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. And you can see it's also a much brighter red than the apron, though I suppose this is also a little bit brighter red than that apron. And then for the pocket here, again, I was kind of limited by color. This one I actually already had in my stash. You can see it is a little bit brighter than this tie, but they didn't have anything closer than that at Joann's. There was a Symphony broadcloth that was kind of close, but Symphony is just so thin and so shiny. I didn't love it. So this is full cotton. And then this is also cotton right here. This is the closest I could find to the red. It's actually showing up the same color on camera, I think, but this is a little bit more of a blue toned red than this. I don't mind it though, and I think those will work together. I did also get a cream base that's actually still in the wash, but that was just like an unbleached Kona cotton, so I think that will work pretty nicely. Surprisingly, they had no red embroidery floss at Joann's whatsoever, so hopefully I can find that elsewhere. I did actually pick up the blue, so I'll be fine on that, and I'm not an embroiderer, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, those are the other fabrics for this project. I feel like this fabric is nearly impossible to tell when you're dyeing it because it changes so much when it's wet. So just so you can see, all of this bit down here, this is all wet right now. You're looking at the exterior and then over here kind of the interior of the fabric. This little corner up here, I just pressed this corner, so I dried it off that way. Something that I kind of like to do when I'm dyeing is just like press a bit so I can see what it's looking like, and it looks pretty pale. So just so you can compare, yeah, like look how freaking pale that is. And to compare that to our swatches, this is the swatch that I had first dyed when I was first testing out this project. So you can see that it is darker than this bit right here. And this is the original undyed. I don't know if it's coming across on screen, but it is much greener than this. So this definitely did go more blue, but it's still so far off of that that I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. Like, it's really far off. I do feel like it looks even farther off on the camera than it is in real life, but it is really far off in real life as well. And then this is the test swatch that I did before I dyed this, and you can see that it is darker. I don't know how well you can see. Again, I feel like it's looking kind of similar, but it is just a little bit darker and more blue. Still nothing compared to that. I mean, this is so frustrating. Like, obviously this is not what we wanted, so it's good that that's gone. But even these ones are way darker. I don't know that I'd say they are closer to this. I want this. Maybe I should have gone with the spoonflower fabric after all. But then the spoonflower fabric has the opposite problem because it's that and that. So it was way too bright. They're all wrong. Everything's wrong. I don't know how to get it right. But I think this might be taking another trip into the dye bath, even though now I've used up all of my salt. I'm like out of salt. And also I am, you know, half as much dye as I had before, so I don't have as much dye. It's very frustrating. Well, I put it in for another round in the dye bath, and my glove broke. Actually, both my gloves broke, but I noticed it quicker on the other hand, so the other hand is not nearly as bad. So yeah, now this is what this hand looks like. And this one's not too bad. It mostly just got right around my wrist because, again, I noticed when it broke and I took it off. So now I have no gloves. I need to go buy more gloves, and my hand is completely blue. This, by the way, is after washing my hand 3 times with baking soda and dish soap, which is apparently the best way to get it off. It looked even worse before. Like, it was just completely blue. And I'm definitely worried about how dark the fabric is as well. In other news, while waiting for the fabric the first time, I did actually scale up this to human size. So I did a whole bunch of math. I know you love it when I do math, right? And basically these are the measurements. I'm just going to leave them on the screen here for a bit. So when I'm talking about the pocket tie, I'm talking about this little band right here. That's that bit here. This is the pocket bag. So in other words, this part right here. And then the blue patch is this funky shape. So that's how tall it is. I have not yet done how wide, and obviously I'm gonna have to figure out the shaping of it. The red heart, pretty self-explanatory. The whole pocket part is like the width all the way across the pocket from blue to blue. And then the ivory width is this one right here. And then the red band, I did that, and the blue was what was left over. So those are all of my measurements. If you are going to be creating your own human pocket, this is based on my height and size. So we're looking at a 41-inch waist, and I am 70 inches tall, as in 5'10". So that's going to be sized up for me. Okay, dye bath update number 2. So we have the dry section over here. This is what it looks like wet, which is why you can't tell anything. And just to compare that, we're definitely a lot closer. So, and when I say it that way, this is all we're doing. We're not doing any more dyeing. I'm tired of having my blue hands, and I don't want them to get worse, and I'm out of blue dye. I used up the entire bottle. In fact, I used up a bottle and a half of this actually, because I used up almost an entire bottle of royal blue and more than half a bottle of the shade of blue that's slightly more turquoise, that's red dye. I can't remember what that's called, but I used that bottle. So just to compare to our other colors here, this was the undyed completely, so you can see just how green that is. So green. So we're definitely in a better place with this. And then this was test number 1, which is still quite green compared to how this is, which is good. Oh yeah, I also did just a splash of purple, so that's why we're getting some of this more purple tone in there. And then this was the one that I did earlier as the test, which, to be honest, I feel like I did want it to go more towards the turquoise than like the purple blue, but I would rather take this brighter color than any of those, frankly, really. And also than this super dark color that I was kind of worried about. I also just want to point out that the back of this dyes nicer. I don't know why, but the back of this is actually like a really nice light blue. It's almost tempting to use the back, except that I feel like the print on the back would just be like too muted, I think. And really, I don't know. Nah, I suppose the front is closer anyway to this than the back. The back's a little too pale, but it is interesting just how blue this went on the back compared to like this was where it started for the back. And then this was today's earlier test. You can see the blue in that one. And because this had a little purple, you can see this one also was the back. This really would have been the closest back to that, but I think where we are on the exterior here, I think that's going to be good. So I'm going to go toss the rest of this in the dryer so that we can get all of it to this color, but we will start again more tomorrow on this. So now that we have finished dyeing the fabric, let's talk about the pattern itself for the dress. So at first I went, and for the skirt, I just did the scale math to figure out like how long it would be on me based on her height versus my height, etc. Except that wound up with a skirt that's actually way shorter than I would want. And I honestly think that that's maybe what I did for the summer dress, because the summer dress wound up quite a bit shorter than the birthday dress that I made. Well, I guess it's not last year anymore. Now it's in 2022. So in Kirsten's wardrobe, all 3 of those dresses are actually the same length. And looking back at the pictures of the summer dress versus the birthday dress, I really liked the length of the birthday dress a lot better than the summer dress. I felt like I was getting just a little bit of peeking out of the pantalettes. Honestly, I could have done with a little bit more, but not nearly as much as what was showing with the summer dress. So I'm kind of going to split the difference. I'm going to shorten the dress 1.5 inches from what I had with the birthday dress, but it's actually going to still be 2.5 inches longer than the summer dress. And I think that that is a good medium there. And then likewise, I scaled up what the tuck would be, because there is one growth tuck around the bottom of this dress, as you can see right there. And doing the scale math based on the length difference, not the height difference, but the length difference of the skirts, the scale math of that tuck would be only like 1¼ inches, which would honestly be pretty lame. So I looked at what I had done with the summer dress, which has 2 tucks, and on Kirsten's actual dresses, the summer dress tuck is 1/16 of an inch wider than the ones that are on the meat dress. But I looked at them and I thought, you know what, that is actually a really nice size tuck. Like it's very evident basically, and I like that idea. So that is what I'm going to do on here. They're 1 5/8 inches instead of 1¼ inches. And that extra 3/8 of an inch really makes a difference on the tuck. So I'm going to do that, and it's the same with the hem because the tuck and the hem are the same depth, and the hem's going to get double folded, and that way it has that weight to it, and it has the visual look of here's my line of stitching, and also here's my line of stitching on the tuck. So what that means is that the skirt itself, I am cutting to 38.5 inches long. That includes the 1 5/8 inch wide tuck, the 1 5/8 inch wide hem, and 1/2 inch for seam allowance. So I think the actual finished length is going to be about 31.5 inches. So let's go ahead. I know you guys love this part. We are going to rip our fabric panels because these are just straight paneled skirts. That is what they did in the 1850s. It's what they did on Kirsten, and it's what I did on both of my other Kirsten dresses. And there are going to be 3 panels that make up this skirt. And then we're going to put pockets, even though hers doesn't have pockets, because who doesn't like pockets? We're going to put pockets in these seams right here. And we're also going to have a seam in the center back. So I know you all love this part. I've already evened out the end. Time to rip our panels. That's 1, 2, and 3. Let's go cut out some pockets and sew all of that up together. Well, I got into a good focus zone this evening despite some focus issues earlier. So let's talk about what I've done. You can see the skirt right here. It is even actually hemmed already. It does not yet have the tuck. So the tuck still needs to happen on here, but otherwise the skirt portion is done. We have our pockets, they're right in there, and all of the gathering stitches are in here ready to attach that to the waistband. The waistband is cut out, but I haven't cut out the backing because the waistband is flat-lined. I haven't cut that out yet. I have, however, cut out additional stuff for the apron. So these right here are the ties. The ties on Kirsten's apron are honestly a little bit on the short side, so I'm thinking of lengthening mine. So I have 2 full-length of the fabric ties right now. I think that's going to be excessive. That's like 60 inches longer than what the scale of hers would be, because that's about 120 inches total. So that's a lot. I also have the body of the apron cut out. It's just been cut out. Nothing else has been done to it. And also the pocket portion right there that goes on the apron, that is also cut out. So if you're curious about dimensions for those, these are including seam allowance. The apron ties are 3.25 inches. The apron length, I have them all written on here. The apron length is 29 3/8 inches. It is 46 inches wide, and the pocket is 11 inches tall, 9 inches wide, because that gets folded over on top for the pocket opening. Speaking of pockets, I also have my pocket pieces here cut out for the external pocket. Got the heart in the blue shape. I haven't washed the base fabric yet, so that has to wait to get applied, but that will be some hand sewing I can do at rehearsal. So that's everything from today. So I don't have that much more sewing time this week, and I'd like to get something actually finished. So what we're going to do is work on the apron first. So what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to hem the edges, just double fold them. Same with the bottom of the apron, and I may or may not serge across the top just so it doesn't fray, since this fabric is quite prone to fraying. Then I'm kind of going to do the same thing for the pocket, honestly, except the pocket is just going to get the top turned in twice, and then the sides are going to get turned in once, and then that's just going to get top stitched in place to the apron skirt itself. Then the top of the apron skirt is going to get gathered up so that it can get attached into the waistbands. And as I'm holding these up, I just realized that I actually cut this wrong, because a waistband in this case, as opposed to the waistband for the dress, which, you know, doesn't have a back side basically, these are meant to be tubes. And I don't have enough fabric to make them tubes. I did my math on these so that they would be like just folded on the edge, and that is not how her waistband straps are meant to be done. So now I have to potentially rethink this, because I only have enough seam allowance to take 1 inch out of this width, and it's not enough length to like make this just the waistband. I need, you know, like 1.5 times one of these. So I guess I have a couple of options. This bit right here, which was left over from cutting them, it is not as wide as these. So I don't think I can use that at all, honestly. And then I have this much left here. So I'm a little bit screwed on that, and I'm realizing that maybe I need to go to Joann's and get more of this fabric and throw that in the wash before I can actually finish this apron, because I screwed that up. But we're at least going to make the apron drape front part, and then when that's finished, we're going to go back and put a tuck on the skirt so that that portion is all done, and then I can move on to the bodice and stuff. But the bodice will probably be next week, because I just don't think that I have time for that today. So yeah, maybe I won't be finishing anything in this video. So in case you've never thought about what the inside of a patch pocket looks like, this is what it looks like with the edges turned up once over here, because that's where it's going to be stitched down to the apron. And then this bit here is turned twice. And if you notice, what I do is I kind of fold the edges that are like underneath the fold. I fold them in at a diagonal angle so that it doesn't wind up sticking out the outside. I do that both up top and also down here at the bottom. So it still looks square from the outside, but that way it doesn't get in the way and stick out past the edge. So I had forgotten when I was talking to you guys before about gathering that her apron is actually pleated into the waistband. So that's what I'm gonna do. They're just, I guess, hers are shallow knife pleats. I don't know if mine's going to need to be shallow or deep, but basically this gets pleated down to 18 inches. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. The rest of the apron is all done. I don't know if you can even see the pocket. It blends in really well because I was trying to match the stripes. So there's the pocket. All of our hems and everything are all nicely done now as well. And yeah, this is going to get pleated down to 18 inches. I am going to go ahead and use the pieces of the waistband that I've already cut out for now, and then I'm going to get more pieces to like do a backing. That's not actually how hers is done, or at least I think that's what I'm gonna do. Hers is done as a folded tube. So this is a fold right here, and then it's kind of just like your average skirt waistband. I've talked about waistbands like this before, and I've done aprons on this channel before, but it is just folded down there. So we'll see. I mean, if I wanted to do it folded, I would have to buy twice as much more, because basically what I would have already cut out would be wasted. And I don't mind having a seam up at the top. Like, that's fine. I can do that. And it would mean that I would just need to buy a little bit less fabric. So that's probably what I'm going to do. And then I will just back those pieces that I've already cut out with the additional fabric that I'm going to have to buy. I had kind of hoped for a second, like I used red ticking for my 19 teens corset back in 2011. I was like, maybe I still have some of that. It turns out that the ticking that Joann's used to sell was white red and actually slightly wider spaced. This is cream red, and cream red was what I wanted with this anyway. So yeah, I am gonna have to buy more of it. Shucks, too bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and do as much of the apron as I can. And then I'm probably going to actually go into the other tube, which is the ties for her pocket. And I already had this random piece cut. I don't even remember what this was cut off from, but it's literally got like seamed pieces together. So I cut it just a little bit shorter so that it would be the length that I would want. And this one is wide enough that I can fold it and do the tube method. So this is literally just one long tube, because this doesn't actually get attached to anything. So I'm gonna put right sides together, make it into one humongously long tube, and turn that right sides out. And that's gonna be the ties for her pocket bag. So now that the apron is done, let's talk about tucks. So the way that you are going to do a tuck like this is you need to find out where you obviously want to do it. And I like making 2 marks. So this first mark right here, this is actually going to be the fold line. So I am going to fold and press on this mark. Being very careful not to press out, because this is a friction pen, so it races with heat, not to press out this mark right here, because that mark is actually my stitch line. So these tucks are 1 5/8 inches wide. They're pretty big, you know, translated from a doll, but you're going to do the same thing if you're working on pin tucks or whatever. So you want to have a fold line and you want to have a stitch line. So once I've pressed and folded it, this just gets folded up below like that, and I stitch right on top of that line and then iron that line off. And that is what will create a tuck, which I will show you in just a moment when it is finished. Oh, though, if you're curious about the math as to like how to get to this tuck, so basically, again, mine was a scale, but the way that you want to work this is I scaled up how much space was left below the tuck right here, and then how wide the tuck is, and you multiply the width of the tuck by 2, add that to the space, and that is where you get this first line right here, and then the width of the tuck is this line. So the apron is as done as I can get it until I buy more of this fabric for the strap. However, now that the tuck is in the skirt, I'm a little bit concerned because, as you can see, you can barely see the tuck. And really, there should be a lot more distance between the apron and the tuck. Just to show you, it should look like this. So I think I probably did the apron too long. Hi, Dora. And I have a feeling I'm going to need to shorten the apron. I can't do that until I do more of the bodice, because the one thing here is that this is set on a really wide waistband, so that might affect where the apron waist kind of sits on that. So with the apron, I could really easily just redo the last stitch that I did and set it up higher basically, or I could hem the bottom up a little bit higher. That's slightly more work before I, you know, put the rest of the waistband on. If I put the rest of the waistband on, then that becomes more work. So we'll see what's best, but I think for next week, I'm gonna go ahead and set the skirt to the bodice and, you know, actually try on and make the bodice and all that sort of stuff before I decide what all I wanna do with this apron. Is that what you think too, Dora? Yeah, good job. The other thing that I, of course, need to work on for next week is the bonnet. The bonnet looks like this. Ta-da! I think it works really nicely on Dora. It's a great look for her. I don't know if it's going to look this good on me, but that is going to be one of next week's projects. You don't want it, huh? I take it off. There you go. Oh, and I'm also going to have to figure out the handkerchief, which really that's just a matter of hand embroidering all of those little X's on there. The red is going to be machine stitched. And unfortunately, that is all of the time that I have for the project this week, as it is now Sunday night. So just to recap, what I accomplished this week was that I did the entire skirt portion of the dress. I also did almost the entire apron. So close. If only I had actually bought more of that fabric. So I will be going back to Joann's for that. I got this bit all calculated, patterned, cut out, etc. Once I have the other fabric out of the wash, then this can get all stitched together, which it gets appliqued via machine, and then there's hand stitching that goes on this as well. I also got the ties to the pocket bag done, and I cut out the pattern for the bonnet, but I didn't actually do the bonnet yet. So the rest of everything will be happening either entirely next week or possibly into the following week. I'm not entirely sure how long this project is going to take. I would love for it to be only 2 weeks. So keep your fingers crossed for me. We'll see how that goes. But I'm already so excited about how it's looking, and I feel like it's coming together pretty well. Of course, I haven't done the hard part yet, which is the bodice. So make sure that you check back next week and we will do the bodice and the bonnet and finish the pocket bag and finish the apron. I think that's everything. Hopefully, and do the handkerchief, but that's really a hand sewing thing. So yeah, we are getting there, and I'm very excited to see this progress. If you liked this video though, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes additional content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Guardian level patrons, Jean, Janelle, and Dan. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope y'all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!